Our Unibody solid shell instruments are at the top of the orchestral snare drum food chain, and for good reason. So stop scrolling and keep listening to learn more about these paragons of percussion. Hi everyone, Tim from BSP here, and that's right, I just said paragons. Give it a Google. Besides alliteration, one of my favorite things here at Black Swamp Percussion is our collection of unibody drums. Today I'd like to tell you more about these incredible instruments which really help set us apart in the percussion industry. So let's start with the basics. Unibody is our brand name for our steam-bent solid wood snare drums, produced start to finish in our facility with some of the coolest manufacturing processes performed here in the shop. So your first question might be, Tim, what's the difference between a typical plywood and a solid wood shell? Glad you asked. Ply shells are layers of thin wood veneer that are glued together and formed into a tube, which we purchase and then cut down to various depths for our Ply maple snare drums, specifically 7-ply shells for our multisonic, sound art, and concert maple drums, and 9-ply for the Pro 10 studio drums. Ply maple shells are some of the most common shell types that you'll find in the percussion world. Our most popular snare drum, the 5x14-inch multisonic, uses a 7-ply maple shell and sounds fantastic. Solid or single-ply shells are made from one piece of lumber. Although our unibody shells are not manufactured from a hollowed out stump of a tree, we're cool but not that cool, we do source the lumber and professionally process in-house. So how do we make these shells? We steam bend. Steam bending is part science, part art, and very labor intensive. Being born from the earth, wood flexes and bends because of its natural structure and inherent properties, specifically an organic polymer called lignin. Look it up. Basically, lignin is the substance that gives wood rigidity and strength. When wood is exposed to heat and moisture, such as steam, lignin becomes softer and more pliable. This allows wood to be bent into different shapes, in this case a circle for a snare drum. Generally speaking, denser woods tend to have more lignin than softer woods, which is why a dense exotic wood like cocobolo is much more difficult to bend than domestic maple. Don't worry, we'll talk more about both hardness and shell types in a minute. From there, we install reinforcement or re-rings inside the raw shell, CNC machine to make the shell perfectly round, obviously important for a snare drum, then apply an appropriate finish and assemble with the necessary hardware. This includes our exclusive arch tube lugs and innovative strainer designs. From there, a professional percussionist tunes each drum and ships to excited musicians around the world. Nice. Special note, we can't show or talk about some aspects of manufacturing as these are known as proprietary processes, which is a fancy way of saying they're a secret. Although we're pretty open about much of our design and manufacturing, there are some things we're more comfortable keeping to ourselves. Just know we've put a lot of time and energy into developing the process. That's science, but not every type of lumber bends the same due to its natural characteristics and individual demeanor. That's art. So what do the re-rings do? They increase stability. Even after the manufacturing process, the solid wood shell is still very much alive in a sense. Because of the natural properties and grain stress of the lumber, a single-ply unibody shell is more likely to flex, even with the necessary sealers and finishes we apply. In contrast, ply shells have layers of veneer and glue to help maintain their integrity. So let's talk a little more specifically about lumber. We work with a wide variety of both domestic and exotic woods. Domestic being maple, cherry, walnut, and ash, and exotic being cocobolo, bacote, purple heart, zebrawood, mahogany, and bubinga. A good place to start when digging deeper into some of these lumber options is the Janka hardness scale. This scale is a lumber numbering system calculated by a very interesting hardness test. Basically, each wood species is profiled and numbered based on the pound's force required to embed an 11.28 millimeter diameter steel ball into the wood. The higher or lower the force required, the higher or lower the rating. I've already gone cross-eyed, but for the woodworking nerds that might be watching, you can find all sorts of additional information with far more detail out there than I'm providing now. In context, the Janka scale is used to document resistance to denting, scratching, etc. in the furniture industry, but we've made a few connections to percussion instrument manufacturing. Exotic woods generally have a higher number on the Janka scale, being harder or more dense, meaning they have more material or fiber per unit of wood. For musical instruments, drums in our case, these harder lumber options tend to produce shorter, more articulate sounds. For instance, cocobolo is the hardest wood we work with and produces a very distinct, crisp, articulate texture, proven popular with orchestral musicians. Domestic woods are less dense, with lower numbers on the Janka scale, and tend to have a darker, smoother quality of sound. For instance, ash and ambrosia maple are the softest wood options we work with and have a very noticeable contrast in sound to cocobolo. Basically, opposite ends of our hardness spectrum, with all other lumber options we work with falling in between. All that being said, different woods also seem to have contrasting timbres, apart from their specific density and hardness. For instance, walnut is technically softer than maple, but to my ear has a more focused sound and has become one of our more popular solid shell choices. Bacote has also become a popular unibody shell option with a similar hardness and timbre to cocobolo, which is more expensive. In all honesty, I tried to find more concrete connections to the specific hardness rating and a resulting snare drum timbre for each wood type. Although there are some relative associations, it seems fair to say there is more at play, pun intended, to the sound and performance of a snare drum than the shell alone. The material in which your drum shell is made of is only one of many different factors that will impact how your drums sound. Let's just consider the following. Hoops. Die-cast single flange or 2.3mm hoops will each offer a different tonal quality to the drum. Heads. There's near countless synthetic head options on the market, as well as natural calf and kangaroo hide heads. Special shout out to our mate Steel at Kenfield Drums. These can all contribute a variety of depth or complexity to a drum sound. Plus, there's tuning, not only top and bottom heads, but also snare system. Check out our multisonic and sound art tuning tutorials if you're interested in seeing how we dial in our snare systems. We'll have those linked in the video's description. But wait, there's more. Dampening. We've got spiffy wood drum dampeners you can check out, as well as stick options, playing area, performance location, and personal playing style. We could do a deep dive on all these contributing factors alone. Although we are in the business of manufacturing musical instruments, we fully admit others may have stronger opinions or a more detailed analysis of lumber and shell construction. With that in mind, we sometimes feel you can begin to split hairs when comparing the specific lumber options and potential sound qualities, which leads to another point of conversation we make when talking about these instruments. How the drum looks should be just as important in the decision-making process. I know this sounds inflammatory and a possible trigger for some, but the grain patterns, color, and overall aesthetic can and should be influential. You might love the contrast in grain and figuring of Bacote or Ambrosia, maybe the beauty of purple heart or bird's eye jumps out at you, or the clean, classic vibe of maple draws your attention. Either way, you know you're going to get an amazing sounding drum with any wood option. Sometimes choosing the one that looks best to you is the way to go, considering that there are 100 other factors to consider when dialing in your snare drum sound. Heads, hoops, hardware, snares, all the things we talked about earlier. So, why consider a unibody snare drum? First, sound quality. A drum shell constructed from a single ply resonates more uniformly and produces a noticeable fundamental pitch in the instrument. This fundamental has a pure, impressive tone and exceptional response, all the way from a delicate whisper to a rambunctious roar. In contrast, ply shells are constructed with multiple layers that resonate together to create the tone of the instrument. The resulting overtones may, in turn, be a bit more complex, creating a crack to the louder dynamic range of the drum, but still producing a beautiful sounding instrument. We've got a pretty extensive list of sound samples for these instruments on our YouTube channel and website. We'll link a playlist in the description where you can hear these drums in action. Second, Manufacturing quality. We're very discriminating when it comes to which shells make the cut. Besides sorting through lumber to find prime cuts, it may also take several bends to get a proper shell, as cracks or defects may not present themselves until we're well into the manufacturing process. With years of experience and fine-tuning, every shell is made with the utmost care and attention to detail. Third, beauty. As just mentioned, unibody drums represent a full and varied selection of lumber options, each with unique grain colors, patterns, and expression to fit both your artistic style and musical tastes. They sure look pretty. Finally, durability. Because of the single piece of wood, with help from reinforcement rings, the shell maintains its integrity and stays in round, even when dropped from a 2-story building. Remember this Facebook gem? It's also important to note unibody drums are more expensive than their Ply Shell counterparts. For one, there's additional labor. As noted earlier, manufacturing shells is very time intensive. It's true, time is money. Plus the process requires a significant amount of expertise and patience. Also, the lumber is costly, sometimes being farmed and imported from around the world. But remember, you're purchasing an exceptional sounding instrument, crafted with extreme care that will last a lifetime, unless it falls off a bus or something, which we're not responsible for. Consider it your Stradivarius of snare drums. Unibody snare drums are our flagship instruments here at Black Swamp, so thanks for sticking with us as we got pretty deep in the weeds on this video. But we love this stuff, and obviously so do you if you've made it this far in the video. Congratulations. That said, let us know what questions you might have about unibody drums in the comments, and if you've got a favorite wood option, let us know that too. Be sure to hit the thumbs up if you liked this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more educational videos like this. Bye.